Hi guys, this is gsnow.com and I'm here with the LG V10 for a full review. This is the famous dual display phablet that everybody has been talking about for a couple of months now. It's the bigger brother to the LG G4, the main flagship from LG last year, and it's supposed to have been launched around last fall. Basically in October it came out, and the LG V10 is here with its dual display setup, main screen and the second screen you can see at the top. So this big phablet is priced at $700 on the official LG website in USA. However, on Amazon you can find it for as little as $500. It's a pretty nice resilient phablet with a dual camera at the front and with this extra little screen aside from the main one. Of course, it's time to talk about design, and the design is supposed to be very tough. There are two aspects about it. There's first the DuraGuard chassis that's made of stainless steel, a special type of stainless steel that has been covered with chromium oxide, and it's able to heal scratches and also withstand shocks. Then we got the Dura Skin, which is this layer here that's elastic. It has a silicone-like material, feels like rubber at the touch, and it's twice as resilient to scratches as plastics and 10 times as aluminum, so that's impressive. And by the way, this back side is removable and pretty easily removable, I have to admit. Here we go, protection removed. Okay, so as I said before, it's a phablet. It's a 5.7-inch phablet, pretty much like the Huawei Nexus 6P, only larger. So while the Nexus 6P measured 7.3 millimeters in thickness, this one measures 8.6 millimeters in thickness, and while the Nexus 6P weighed 178 grams, this one is quite fat at 192 grams. It's big, it's massive, but also very grippy thanks to the texture of the back. It's not exactly comfy because it's very long and you can forget about one-hand usage, that's for sure, and especially because it's very heavy and once again very long. Other than that, people who like big phones and their sturdiness, their resilience and the way it feels in your hand when you're gaming may like this, but people who want small phones will be bummed out. It's military certified in the STD 810G certification, which means it's shock resistant. Basically it's solid like a tank and big like one. And now we move on to the display. We're dealing here with a 5.7-inch IPS LCD Quad HD screen with quantum display technology and Gorilla Glass 4 protection. And there's a second screen above the main one, as I said before. It's the small LCD panel that's always on. It has a 2.1-inch diagonal and a resolution of 160 over 1040 pixels. Now, in order to play videos, we're going to have to use the gallery because we don't have a dedicated video player. So let's have a look here. This is what the player window looks like, and we get features like Q slide that lets you minimize it and move it around while doing something else. And other than that, we have screen ratio, subtitles and settings available from this gallery, which is not bad considering it replaces a video player in the end. Now, as far as the actual screen experience goes, let's judge it right here. So we have an okay brightness, also pretty okay contrast. The colors feel a bit washed out. For example, this red is pink here, while it's totally red on other devices. We got wide view angles, and the pixels are of the RGB stripes variety. You can see them here under the microscope. We used the lux meter to measure the brightness, and we were underwhelmed by the 363 lux units. Not impressive. It's 2 lux less than the unimpressive LG G5. It's below the LG G4's 432 lux, and the screen also suffers from some light bleeding, sadly. Special settings for the screen, well, they're galore. So got second screen options, like things to show when the main screen is off, and in this case when the main screen is on, and then off. As you can see, there are different settings. So when it's off, you can show the date and time and a signature, which can be customized with a lot of options. You can write your name here and set the font, but that's when the screen is off, which is happening right now. So the name is here, and you also have some shortcuts and items like right there. But when the screen is on, many more options like recent apps, signature, app shortcuts, music player, quick contacts, upcoming plans. You can control the media player, view the signature, view the recently used applications, some shortcuts for apps. Of course, they're customizable from here. And of course the contacts can also be tweaked. You can add a new contact in that area. So that's what the second screen is all about. Some people may consider it a gimmick. It's basically an alternative to the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, only this time it's not on the edge, it's above the main screen. So display options, home screen, we got home options like easy home or home, we got smart bulletin, theme, then there's lock screen, home touch buttons, font type and size, brightness, auto, screen timeout, and for some reason there's no way to tweak the colors, sadly. So overall I have to say it's not a very impressive screen, but the second screen is quite nice, considering it's an alternative to the modern trend of placing extra edges with screens on the sides. Now as far as performance goes, let's see what we're dealing with here. So we have a hexa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 processor. It's pretty much the same CPU from the LG G4, accompanied by 4GB of RAM, and apparently that was an ad, accompanied by 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage plus microSD card slot. Of course, seeing how it has the specs of a flagship from last year, the phone does not suffer from lag, it has good performance and it's quite fluid. It's able to run games like Riptide GP2 or the newer Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, which is a new title, comes from the PC, from Steam, and still works and looks just fine. But I'm going to show you Riptide GP2 here. Nice graphics, nice looking water, responsive controls, good speed sensation. So when it comes to gaming, everything is fine and dandy. And let's see what's happening when it comes to the benchmarks, because we also did those, obviously. Okay, so we have a lot of them. Well, things you should remember in the ballpark is that in Antutu 6, well, we pretty much gravitated around the Lenovo Vibe X3 in most of the benchmarks, and in Antutu 6 we beat the Sony Xperia Z5. We have a good 3D result here. You can see more benchmarks were performed. We got Quadrant here with a pretty modest score, let's face it. And in Quadrant we scored below the Snapdragon 810 devices, which was to be expected. And once again, we usually score above or below the Lenovo Vibe X3, which has the same processor. Meanwhile, in 3D Mark, the result was a bit underwhelming because it's below the Nexus 5X, for example, and I feel it could have been better. So overall, mixed performance, but still a device that handled its own pretty well. Now, when it comes to the temperature, a bit of a problem here. So after doing the benchmark GFX bench for a while, we achieved 39.3 degrees Celsius, almost overheating, but then after 15 minutes of gaming, 40 degrees Celsius, so almost overheating. However, after I played the game Brothers for a long time, the phone got really hot, and not even for a long time, something like 10 or 20 minutes. It was very hot at the back side, especially near the camera, so much so that you couldn't even place your fingers on it, and it bothered you quite a bit. So in my book, that's a problem, and that's serious overheating. Now it's time to talk about the battery. So we're done with the display and the performance. The performance is mixed and the display was a bit underwhelming brightness wise. Now the battery, we're dealing here with a 3000 mAh lithium ion unit. It's below the capacity of the Nexus 6P that brings a bigger 3450 mAh battery. Now let's see the actual performance. So the first test was a continuous HD video playback one, 9 hours and 20 minutes. It's just okay. At least it beats the HTC 10 and OnePlus 2, but it scores below the Galaxy Note 3 and the Asus Zenfone Selfie, so could be better. A disappointment was the PC Mark test. This one simulates continuous usage. Well, 5 hours and 25 minutes, just don't cut it. It's weak, but it beats the LG G4 by a few minutes. Still, it's below the Xperia E4 and the LG AKA, both entry-level models, and that cannot do. When it comes to the charging, 1 hour and 41 minutes, that's okay. We also have quick charge supported on this phone, which means it can juice up the phone to 50% in 40 minutes, and that's very nice. With the time I mentioned before, 1 hour and 41 minutes, we're doing better than the LG G4 and the LG G Flex 2. Obviously, there are settings for the battery and power saving, We got battery saver here, restricting apps in the background and blocking the second screen, and game optimizer, so you can adjust the video quality in the games to save some juice. So a mixed battery, like the performance was mixed, with a pretty disappointing PC mark result, but good battery charging. Now it's time to talk about the acoustics. So we get a 32-bit hi-fi DAC. You can upsample files from 16-bit to 24-bit, and the music player is available right here. It looks like this, as a pretty nifty interface. And let's have a glance at the equalizer options. So we got normal, pure sound, quad beat, bass booster, treble booster, vocal booster, custom options, 7 channels of frequencies to tweak, plus pitch and speed, which can be set up as well. So that's pretty nice. Okay, now let's go to the actual experience, listen to some music. Okay, so that was the experience. By the way, the speaker is placed right here, and the conclusion, well, the sound seems pretty loud and clear. Got a crisp sound, good bass. There is a slight distortion on the maximum volume, and the keys, particularly in the songs, were nicely heard. We also did a decibel meter test, and let's see what came out of that. So a pretty underwhelming 79.8 decibels. This is actually the 85th placed phone we test in this chapter, so that's a bit of a letdown. It's below the M-Star S700, which is a very affordable phone, but it beats the Samsung Galaxy A5, the older version. Now the headphones, those are the real price here. So these are the headphones that come with the phone. They look precious, and they're excellent when it comes to the acoustic experience. The wire has a special fabric. It's sort of like nylon, it's tangle free. We have an elegant remote right here, and they give the sensation of copper. But once you connect them, a whole series of options opens up, and you'll be able to see some extra features. Okay, so let's go to those. Sound notification. This is it, 32-bit hi-fi DAC. You can optimize sound quality. You have 75 levels for the volume. You have these knobs for the left and right, so you can play with extra settings here, which is quite welcome. And the conclusion about the headphone usage, well, aside from being beautiful, they're loud, they have good isolation, and they have great bass. And since we're here, we also have FM radio, which has a very nice minimalistic user interface, but it didn't quite find many stations. So back here a bit to the sound and notification, we got options like ringtone ID, which can create a ringtone for every profile, vibration strength, there's interruptions, there's lock screen apps, and these extra options, including sound effects here. Okay, so in a nutshell, the acoustics are disappointing if you look only at the speaker, but they're excellent if you look at the headphones. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the camera. So at the back, we got the same shooter as the one on the LG G4 and even the LG G5 mains camera, 60 megapixel shooter measuring about 1/3 of an inch, f1.8 aperture, optical image stabilization. We also have laser focus right here, and the flash is available here. At the front, a surprise, we got dual cameras, dual 5 megapixel shooters. One is a wide angle one with 120-degree angle lens. So the camera app starts up reasonably fast, and I'm going to use this cube to exemplify some of its features. Let's go to auto for now. Just like on the LG G4 and the G5, there are 3 main modes of usage. Simple, tap the screen to take a picture. Auto adds some extra options, and manual adds a ton of options. Let's remove this one and let's go to auto. So we have flash available here, we got the front camera shortcut, and we have the modes. There's multi-view that uses all 3 of the cameras here, so 2 at the front, 1 at the back to take shots, and you can change the arrangement. Then we got panorama, slow-mo, and time-lapse. Those are the modes you'll be playing with. Settings, well, HDR, aspect, you can film up to 4K, voice command, timer, this grid, and the option for steady or optical image stabilization. Steady is for when you're walking around. Then we have this extra area here that lets you share stuff to Gmail, to Facebook, or via Bluetooth, for example. And now the actual camera usage. Well, we have a fast focus. As you can see me changing it from right here. We also have a fluid zoom and fast picture taking. Okay, so now it's time to go to the manual mode, and keep in mind we have two manual modes, one for the photo taking and one for the video taking, which is actually kind of cool. The one for photos brings you white balance, it also brings you focus, exposure, ISO, shutter, and this extra option here, plus an extra flash option, this one dubbed Air, that lets you take a special kind of flash shot which analyzes the exposure in two ways. Anyway, you can also shoot raw files aside from JPEGs, and then we go to the manual video mode, which is sort of bluish, but anyway it has a ton, and I do mean a ton of options. So first, the microphone. You can set up the microphone in a certain direction, more to the left or to the right from what I can gather here, add some extra decibels, and apply a wind noise filter, which is very impressive. Of course, you can tweak white balance, focus, exposure, ISO, shutter, and all that, and you can also change the steady thingy from there. Okay, and more settings. So you can shoot Full HD, 4K, Full HD Cinema, HD. You can change the bitrate, medium, low, or high, and even the frame rate from 1 frame per second, 2 frames, 24 frames, 30 frames, or 60 frames. So once again, a ton of options. Now the front camera, it's this one here, and just like on the LG G5, you can pick between the cameras, and the wide angle one catches a larger sight. You also have a beautification area right here, and the modes, so everything is pretty straightforward. I guess it's time to go to the gallery now. So here we go. Be prepared to be amazed. We have over 400 shots. There were a lot of events this summer and we were there to cover them. We went to Comic-Con, special launch of the game Overwatch, and in the end we also took some shots outside. Okay, so we start off with the ones taken on a sunny day outside. The first being this one here. So I have to say that those shots have a good texture, pretty realistic colors. The selfies look okay, but I may have exaggerated a bit with that beautifying effect, so the face looks artificial. Anyway, at least the background and the face are pretty clear. So pictures are crisp here. The colors feel good, but a little bit artificially modified. The LG G4 and G5 were landmarks in the area of color. Well, this one tends to over sharpen and modify a bit the colors. We're taking some excellent close-ups here with a huge level of detail, as you can well see, and we're also performing in landscape shots detail-wise. So as I said before, there's a bit of over sharpening happening here and there, and the color feels a bit artificial, particularly in the sky area, but in general I was reasonably happy with the color choice of this phone and the color calibration. As you can see, we kept zooming in, and I have to say that the details are excellent when we zoom in all the way to the max. And we also took a panorama with a pretty good resolution of 21,504 pixels over 2624 pixels. And this is the panorama, pretty generous and not curved, which is always a good thing. Some close-ups of flowers and leaves, pretty well done. And this is an HDR, so regular shot and HDR shot, maybe a bit too white and the grass is a bit burnt here, but in the end, a reasonable result. Okay, and a few more shots here with good lighting, exposure and white balance, but every once in a while when we started zooming in there was a bit of burn happening. Nice colors here. Once again, a temptation to make colors feel artificial and over sharpen happens again. And close-ups, and let's see what else we've got. We played with the focus here. Focus on this little thingy or focus on the writing and so forth. Of course, the mandatory flower close-ups are available here with excellent level of detail, good lighting and nice colors. So that's pretty much it as far as the daytime capture is concerned. Now when it comes to the indoor capture, once I said before, we went to Comic-Con and this is what came out, a huge gallery of shots, people dressed in cosplay. As you can see, some of these pictures are a bit washed out, and when there is a huge amount of light with various colors, the camera doesn't seem to face them, but where you're in a proper setting with light coming from outdoors, the results are quite good and you'll be able to handle the lighting. Okay, so this is Deadpool with a sword, people playing games, and in general I was happy with the quality, but there was a blurry shot here and there, and once again the lighting felt off when you had multiple light sources of different colors. Okay, so now it's time to judge the nighttime capture, because you also have that low light, and the LG G4 was a champ in that aspect. Let's see how the LG V10 handles it. So my first impression was that the street light halos are huge, simply huge, a bit distracting, and in general any source of light will be interpreted as huge by this sensor. The clarity is good, and in spite of the big halos we get excellent texture of the buildings, and the flash, as you can see, does an excellent job. However, these lights will make some pictures a bit foggy, but in the end I find the quality to be satisfying for a handset that could have been considered sort of a flagship at the end of last year. The conclusion is that when it comes to the photo capture, we're below the LG G4 and also below the Galaxy S7 and the LG G5, at least at night. However, during the daytime, we're pretty much on par with the LG G4 performance. Now when it comes to the video capture, we shot MP4 Full HD, 30 frames per second and 17 megapixel bitrate, and let's see some of those videos. So video number 1. Here the microphone handled it like a champ. We had quite a bit of amount of noise around us. The clarity is good and so are the colors. It keeps that effect that bothered us last year on the LG G4, that feeling that the image is doing something like this, as if I were on a boat. It's still kept here. Okay, so we also tested the stabilization by ascending stairs. Pretty good stabilization. And we did a 4K video with a 47 megapixel bitrate, which should be this one. Nope. Let's find it. Find the 4K clip. It's actually this one. So 4K video, excellent clarity, excellent lighting and quality. However, once again that effect keeps bothering me. I'm talking about that feeling you're on a boat and it's constantly moving. You cannot see it on the phone, but you can see it on the PC, so it's a bit of a problem for me. Okay, we also tested the front camera. It's pretty good for doing some video blogging and things like that. You have the advantage of full HD filming. We actually descended a set of stairs here, and I have to say the stabilization was quite good. We don't have optical image stabilization like the HTC 10, but still digital should be here. Other than that, one more video here. It's slow motion, can be sped up. It looks quite nice. So realistic colors in the videos, minus the clouds. And now let's see those Comic-Con videos, because we have a lot of them. And one of them is here, with kids checking out guns. Of course, replica guns, don't worry. As you can see, everything is very clear. The colors are excellent. There's no problem with focusing. However, when we meet the outside light, the image feels a bit washed out. And if you look at it on the PC, it's even more washed out. Overall, I would call the clarity good, and it can be a phone that can be used by people for video blogging and things like that. And aside from a few problems with the exposure and problems with the microphone, especially indoors when there are a lot of sources of noise, I would have to say I'm pretty happy with the results. It's good enough for events, maybe minus the acoustics and strange exposure combining lots of light sources. I'd place the video capture between the quality of the LG G4 and the one of the LG G5, and this phone certainly has the most video capture options I've seen in my whole life. We're done with the camera now. It's time to talk about the web browser, and I'm going to mention that this is Chrome we're using here. That's the pre-installed browser. As you can see, not very fast. And the benchmarks dedicated to the web browser, which are BrowserMark, SunSpider and Velamo, had pretty modest results. Got a comfy keyboard, well spaced, has a numeric row, When it comes to the connectivity, we are completely covered. Let's see with what. We got Bluetooth 4.1, Wi-Fi A, B, GN, AC, micro USB 2.0, GPS, GLONASS, NFC, LTE category 6 up to 300 megapixel download. There's DLNA, there's this infrared emitter at the top, there's Miracast, and as far as the calls are concerned, we get a pretty okay volume, good clarity, and a good microphone, and more features here: speed dial, one-hand operation, Q slide, edit tabs, and so forth. Okay, so other good things, we have HD voice supported, just in case you were wondering, and don't forget it, special call settings like noise suppression and voice clarity that will boost your experience. Time to discuss software. I'm going to start with the version running on the LG V10. It's Android 5.1.1 Lollipop. Stuck at Lollipop, it should have gotten Marshmallow by now, but not. It has a minimalistic and flat interface, got Smart Bulletin with its very own home screen, and it's basically a collection of functions and apps: Calendar, LG Health, Smart Tips, Quick Remote, Smart Settings, Music, and Evernote. Of course, customizable, and the entire Smart Bulletin concept is optional. The widgets, well, the widgets go something like this. Here we go. Of course, they are divided between stock widgets and LG specific widgets, quite a few of them, nice looking, flat, and all that. Multitasking is based on a carousel. You can do app pinning like this, and you can also trigger a dual window using that option. So you can work with the browser at the same time and work with the gallery at the same time, and even switch among them. Okay, and in the drop down portion you'll be able to find the usual options like the notification, brightness slider, and quick toggles, let's say quick settings, with a capture plus option. Lets you take a screenshot and then edit it with quite a few options. Back to these toggles, we have one for hi-fi DAC, pretty useful, and if you connect headphones, and Q slide, which lets you overlap a series of applications like this and use them in smaller windows. Okay, that's the Q slide in a nutshell. Then we go to the settings that are divided in tabs: connectivity, sound, display, and general. And here we have options for smart cleaning. There's backup and reset, obviously. There's dual window, which you saw before, quick cover case, and smart settings, basically a way to automatize the usage of your phone. So things to do at home or on the go or when the headphones are plugged, various activities that have to do with connectivity, and various profiles of sound. And then we reach the mini view section. So you can minimize the screen. If you want to simulate the use of a smaller diagonal phone, this is it. And then we got the shortcut key. You can associate a feature to one of the volume buttons. And then we get to the fingerprint and security area. So fingerprints. Okay, so let's see what the fingerprint scanner is all about. We got it here, fingerprints, secured with a pin. You can unlock the screen or lock some content, and let's see how it works. So I'm using the wrong finger to press it, to trigger it. And now I'm using the right finger to unlock it. Let's also try it from an angle this time. And also try it like this from a 90-degree angle. Still got recognized, and it's pretty accurate. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, as you can see, there's a bunch of them. We counted 45 apps, including a lot from Google. We got the store here from LG Smart Wall. We got Quick Remote, so you can control your TV set, Blu-ray player, and all that. We got Evernote for productivity, LG Health to track your steps, and even your jogging map. And then we have the file manager, and finally, let's actually see it. And finally, Quick Memo Plus should be here somewhere, provided that we cannot find it. Here we go, Quick Memo Plus with a ton of options: bullet, underline, italic, alignment, various pens for drawing, various color choices, and text options. So that's it in a nutshell. It's time for the verdict. This is the LG V10, one of the most interesting phablets I've tested recently, because it has two front cameras and two front displays. So on the pro side, it's resilient to shocks and scratches. We got a second screen that feels like a pretty nice touch, and it's as useful as the Edge on the Samsung models. If you find that useless, you also find this useless. We got good performance, fast charging, high-end acoustics, we found the most video capture options ever, and the camera feels between the LG G4 and the G5, which is a compliment even nowadays. Now on the con side, those were the pros. On the con side, the phone may feel a bit too massive. The screen is not exactly very bright. There's a bit of light bleed, overheating in games, weak PC Mark battery result, low volume at the speaker. The dual front camera is, let's face it, a gimmick, and the microphone could be a bit better. Plus it's stuck at lollipop and has bloatware, so not exactly perfect. It has its shortcomings, but it remains a tough phablet that doubles down on the front camera and on the front screen and on the tons of options provided for the main camera. The camera remains good unless you really want to take some shots or videos with a perfect exposure when the light is off. By off I mean strange. The battery is kind of poor, especially for a phablet. It's a bit prone to overheating during long games, but in the end it feels like a blogger's phone, and it should do the trick of blogging or video blogging quite nicely for you. So this is gsm.com, this is the LG V10, and that was its full review. A phone that feels like the LG G4's bigger brother and does that role pretty well. Bye bye.